Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. And over the last couple of days, we've heard so much about 5G. And I think collectively in this room, there is really this eagerness and this interest and willingness to learn. So what is 5G really going to do for us? Because, you know, we hype it up, everybody's talking about it, but how is that going really to transform the future? A future that's here today that's only limited by our imagination. So I'm going to walk you through some of the perspectives that we've had at Sprint over the last year or so working on 5G. It might sound a little bit cliche that, you know, 5G is truly revolutionary. But if you think about it, it really is. The same way 4G really catapulted into a new era our society through the explosion of applications that we couldn't even imagine 10 years ago, we believe collectively as an industry that we are really at the forefront of something truly unique that's going to transform the way we live, transform the way we play, and transform the way our society basically develops. And you know, we've talked about, and you've heard this over the last couple of days time and time again, about the ultra-low latency that 5G is going to bring, the massive scale that 5G is going to enable. We talk about speed, we talk about latency, we talk about, you know, the collective power of 5G. So what I want to do is maybe spend, you know, the next few minutes that we have together and go deeper on specific use cases that we have been working on at Sprint. But before that, let me talk about our launch. We've made the announcement at Mobile World Congress in Barcelona, so this is information that we have been sharing. Over the last year or so, our network teams have been incredibly busy building our first 9 markets that will have 5G in the US. We are going to start this month, so you know the clock is ticking. Before the end of May, we are going to be launching our first 4 markets, and before the end of the first half of 2019, so before the end of June, we will be launching our additional 5 of this initial set of 9 markets. And what's really remarkable about the way Sprint has been designing the deployment of our 5G infrastructure is that it's truly designed for highly mobile users. So what would be 5G if you can't use it, you know, in a truly mobile way? You know, collectively across these 9 markets, once all the markets launch, we would be covering over 1,000 square miles and probably about 7 million POPs in the country across just those 9 markets. So I think this is something that we are very excited about at Sprint, really looking forward to it, and definitely more to come as our first market starts experiencing 5G. But what does that really mean? So the deployment of the markets is just the beginning. And you know, we talked about it, you know, yesterday. I was up here on a panel with some colleagues in the industry. The deployment of the markets is just the beginning. The true benefits of 5G are going to come over time, over the next few years. And when we talk about the transformational nature of 5G, this is something that all of us as a society, as consumers, we are going to experience in waves, you know, in different ways as it relates to multiple industries. So I'm just going to focus on, you know, what's the benefit for consumers and what are the benefits to some of our businesses. And oftentimes, what happens is that we have, you know, enterprises or particular, you know, thought leaders in specific verticals who would think about the benefits to just consumer or to the benefits just to the business segment. The reality is that, you know, there is a real cross-pollination between the two. If there is a benefit to a particular business, to a particular vertical, at the end of the day, the end user is the consumer who's going to benefit from it. So let's explore some of those ways that we are all going to benefit from 5G. If we think about our experience on broadband today, it's really fast, but it's not as mobile. What we all want and expect from 5G is to have the same great connectivity experience in a much more mobile way, so that we can really become, limitless in terms of the experiences that we have, using our devices from a consumer perspective. And then everybody has been talking about, for a number of years now, about the Internet of Things. What is the Internet of Things? Well, the Internet of Things is going to be truly turbocharged when you bring it together with the benefits of 5G, because 5G is going to drive scale for IoT. So we're going to be, using a significantly higher number of devices. That's really what we refer to as massive IoT. And in a second, in one of the upcoming use cases, we'll talk about, how this really gets translated into our everyday life and how all of us as consumers end up using, massive IoT. And then last but not least, probably the most sought after area when it comes to bringing the benefits of IoT and 5G together is when we talk about critical IoT. Think of all the applications and use cases that truly could not be operating without ultra-low latency that only 5G can bring, to our society. Some of these applications and use cases are available today on 4G, but what we also know is that 5G is going to enhance those applications, really turbocharge them, and really change the way we have been thinking about some of the application that IoT is enabling. One thing to keep in mind though, 5G and IoT together, they do have complementary strength, but when you bring in other emerging technologies into the mix, such as artificial intelligence, next-gen robotics, micro-positioning, and so on and so forth, you really multiply the number of use cases and applications where we can really push the limit of what's in place today, and push the limits of our imagination. So let's talk about how we have started bringing that imagination to life, bringing that future to life today. At Sprint, we are very, very proud of our IoT Curiosity platform that we launched last fall. It's the first virtualized, dedicated, and distributed IoT platform that has been really designed from the ground up to be, enabling future technologies, future applications. And, we are also very proud that, it's not just us, talking about the benefits of curiosity. It's truly groundbreaking nature. But just in this week in Denver on Monday evening, we received an award from really leading lights on having the most innovative IoT strategy and platform. So, something for us that, our entire IoT team at Sprint has been celebrating this week. So when you bring this really groundbreaking IoT platform to our 5G, it really allows us to deliver on applications and use cases and bring them to life. So it's not just, me talking against a slide and a theory of what's to come. This is something that we have actually deployed in the area of smart cities. We've had 2 launches in this past few months, one in Greenville in South Carolina, and the other one in Peachtree Corners, Georgia, right outside of Atlanta. What does that really mean? Everybody talks about smart cities, but what are all the elements that you need to bring together to truly enable a smart city? First and foremost, everybody's talking about, autonomous vehicle. Well, it's great that, the vehicles can operate, autonomously, but what you really need to bring to life is making sure that all of these vehicles can be aware of the context within which they operate, that they are aware of the pedestrians crossing the street, of the obstacles, the construction sites that are going on in the city. So to enable that, the true benefits of smart city, In Peachtree Corners, working with the authorities of the city, we have created the first and probably one of the most powerful test beds when it comes to smart city, where we are really bringing together the power of micro-positioning, which is really not, our grandma's GPS, but, inch-based, precise location that you really need to have as a vital element of enabling autonomous driving, making sure that all the cars, they cannot only are aware of where they are, but everything that surrounds them and that's around them. So we brought together micro-positioning, high-definition mapping, the power of our 5G, and of course, our Curiosity IoT platform. This particular test bed in Peachtree Corners is already being recognized as one of the most modern one, if I may use that word, in terms of how smart cities are going to develop and really bring them to scale as it starts deploying throughout the country in the next few years. We talk about healthcare. I think that's probably one of the areas that most of the speakers over the last 2 days have touched on. At any 5G conference, when you get a group like this together, everybody wants to explore the benefits of 5G for healthcare. This is an area where we could be talking about the benefits of remote surgery, but let's face it, remote surgery is not going to happen in a meaningful way for another few years. What can, however, happen in a meaningful way right now as we roll out 5G is really helping society by really enhancing the experience that patients have when they need to have access to a doctor. Think about the last time that any of you picked up the phone to make a hotel reservation. It was probably a long time ago. This has become an on-demand generation. We just go into our app, we make our hotel reservation. There is nothing different about the healthcare industry. If I need to have access to a doctor, I want to make sure that I can have access to a doctor right when I need it. Based on statistics that were actually published by the US Department of Health last year, to make an appointment with your primary care provider, it takes an average of about 3 weeks. So what do people do? They don't wait 3 weeks. They go to the emergency room. We had over 136 million visits in emergency rooms in the US alone last year. Over 60% of those visits could have been avoided if the patient could have actually accessed a doctor immediately and say, hey, this is my condition. Do I really need to go to the emergency room? So with the power of 5G, this is what we are going to enable. Millennials are so used to the on-demand, nature of all the verticals that they use and, that they play in. Healthcare is no different. And that's one of the areas where we are going to see an immediate change that, the entire healthcare industry is going to bring about. And there's already a lot that's being done in that department. I like to talk about the field of education. I am a mother of 3 children. I don't get to visit their classroom often. I try to, but I spend more time being away from home than actually at home. But the very rare times where I actually get to go to their classroom, yes, the classroom has changed. They have iPads, they have devices, they have smart boards, they have laptops. And the reality is that the children and the new generation, they are much faster as using all of these devices than probably any one of us. But this is changing continuously. The education and the classroom is going to evolve even further by creating experiences that none of us as children ever had when we were going to school some years ago. Think about, the way we can teach our children, the immersive experiences that they can really see and be a part of, using virtual reality and augmented reality, which is something that's going to be powered by 5G. There are already, programs going on across the country in some of the, most renowned institutions, like at NYU right now, there is a program going on where they are really looking at how do we bring the power of 5G for virtual experiences and truly immersive experiences for our children in the classroom. So that's, again, another area for all of us to watch very closely. But it's not science fiction, it's reality. Those experiments and those experiences are happening today, and I think over the next few years, they are just going to multiply. And 10 years from now, when somebody gets back on this stage, the same way we couldn't think about, what was ride-sharing 10 years ago. We didn't even know that there was such a term, for applications such as Uber. Well, 10 years from now, the field of education is also going to be completely revolutionized. And the enabler for, the way we are changing society is really 5G. I just want to leave you on one note. None of this could happen if it's just the operators developing, the technology for 5G, or using an IoT platform that's so flexible and so agile that, it really can support any type of use cases and applications that enterprises need across the country. The reality is for 5G and these experiences to become reality and to get a life of their own, we need a full ecosystem to come together. So it's not just the OEMs working on 5G, it's not just the operators, it's all of us collectively in the industry, everyone in this room and all of our colleagues who are going to make sure that 5G doesn't, is not just a theory, that it actually becomes fact and we all start enjoying the benefits of it. So my ask to all of you is, continue to be curious. No pun intended. That's why we called our IoT platform Curiosity. Continue to imagine. Push the limits of your imagination. And one thing that I would say is that at Sprint, we are very privileged to be on this journey of the imagination for the future with all of you. Thank you.